Hey, this is Mark of the Jack and Mark Show. Forget everything you were taught about science, history, math, art, and business because it was all crap. Each week, we give you the true dope on things. Join us for our Season 4 show, Chicken from Another Planet.
Jack and Mark Show presents Tall Tales from the Masterpiece Library. Today's episode, The Chicken from Another Planet. Well, I think we're onto a good thing this time. Growing our own chickens. It was so easy to put this chicken coop together. I just called shed in a day, cut some windows out of the thing, and put chicken wire around it. We're going to have fresh eggs. It's getting increasingly more important to be self-sufficient nowadays. God knows when the apocalypse is coming. You can live off of eggs and carrot.
We got to get off the grid.
Yeah, and fruit.
And fruit, yeah, and legumes and vegetables.
I've got one chicken so far. Should we call it a name? I mean, it's harder when you have to actually kill the chicken, if you give it a name and everything.
How about just a number? That'll make it easier.
We'll call him number 4. Or should we call him number 1?
Her.
Oh, her.
Well, it's a chicken.
My uncle was a farmer. In fact, he's credited with creating some of the first breeds of chickens that can lay 10 eggs a minute. No one knows how he bred this chicken to do this. And the chicken was the size of a bulldog.
A chicken-sized bulldog or a...
It was a chicken the size of a bulldog.
So the chicken was as big as a chicken-sized bulldog.
Yeah, a chicken-sized bulldog. In fact, they called it the bulldog breed. And he even used it to guard the house. He had a dog, but they got into a bit of a scrap, and so the dog went to the neighbors.
Didn't the dog lose his eyes because he was pecked out?
No, it wasn't. Well, he lost his self-esteem. That was the big problem. And so my uncle gave the dog to the neighbor, and then the chicken took over guard duties. Someone tried to break into the house.
But he laid an egg every 6 seconds, and didn't the criminal get stuck like that Home Alone movie where he stepped on all the eggs and he fell? Isn't that what happened?
It was. In fact, this chicken was absolutely a genius. To lay eggs like that and knowing that the thief will slip on the kitchen floor. And then he slipped and he hit his head and he was unconscious. And the chicken laid an egg in his mouth just to humiliate him. That's impressive, I think.
Well, the criminal lost his self-esteem too, right?
Well, yeah, he did lose his self-esteem. He'd actually been defeated by a chicken, just like the dog.
And there was no roosters around in those days.
They must have had roosters.
Well, you don't need a rooster to lay an egg.
Oh, that's true.
Right, chickens will lay eggs without roosters, but the eggs won't become chickens, though.
Yeah. This hen refused to have any roosters around because it was a really hardcore feminist. My uncle said, bring a rooster around. I think I want to have some chicks. So I I'll bring a rooster around. And she had nothing to do with him. And not only that, she humiliated him. The rooster, once again, it was a matter of low self-esteem. And the rooster, well, he flew away.
Which is ironic because roosters can't fly.
No, but this one was so desperate to get away, it actually flew. It got about a foot off the ground and kept flapping its wings. And funny enough, it went over to where the dog was, at the farm next door. And they both had some sort of camaraderie.
Well, because they both had low self-esteem. Same. Didn't the criminal go over there as well?
Yeah, he used to go and visit the dog and the rooster.
Because they all had low, and they started a low self-esteem class.
They did. They would have some comfort sessions occasionally. They actually showed one of those sessions on YouTube once. And of course, the criminal was the only one who could talk. But they seemed to, they would just sit there and silently meditate together. A chicken, a dog, and a dejected criminal or a thief. Yeah, this went viral on YouTube.
What was the chicken's name, first of all? Did he have a name, or was he just numbered?
He called it, what did he call it? Oh, he called it Pi.
After the number?
Yeah, 3.14. The chicken refused to respond to 3.14.
What about 22/7? Did it respond to that?
No, it wanted to be called Pi. That's how smart it was. It knew that 3.14 meant pi.
Wait a sec, if 3.14 means pi, then wouldn't it respond to both?
How can this be possible?
I think the chicken was so smart that it knew that 3.14 was only a very good approximation to pi.
Oh, do you think that's what it was? Well, this chicken, you could give it math problems and it would peck out an answer in the dirt.
Right, well, didn't it once try to solve the Riemann hypothesis?
What is the Riemann hypothesis?
Well, the Riemann hypothesis says that the zeros of the zeta function all on the complex plane all lie along the line with a real part equal to 1/2. It's never been proven, though. It's been neither proven nor disproven.
Scientists came by and they just kept giving the chicken increasingly more difficult problems, and it kept solving them all. And I think they gave it that question.
I think they also gave it the continuum hypothesis.
I think they did.
Yeah.
But when the chicken pecked out the answer,
They didn't understand it.
well, the scientist he'd been working for 10 years as a professor at a university, and the chicken solved it, and then he had low self-esteem. He joined the session. Yet soon enough, there he was. There was two people there, and a dog and a rooster. And again, well, actually, the thief and the professor could talk, but one was very intellectual, and the thief was a little more brutish. But they got along. They got along because they had common experience.
All four of them had been humiliated in their respective fields of endeavor. I mean, this chicken was also good at pole vaulting too, wasn't she?
Yeah, well, that was remarkable to see this chicken with a pole in its beak charging at a fence.
The thing about the chicken charging at the fence, it could actually jump over the fence. I mean, there's a technicality in pole vaulting. If you could jump over the crossbar, provided you've at least touched the pole, you would get credit for being a pole vaulter. So she was just really a high jumper in disguise.
Well, the chicken was many things in disguise. I think it was an alien. I mean, what kind of, maybe it was an alien from a planet of chickens, because it wasn't a normal chicken, you know.
Well, they made a movie about that, didn't they, in the late 60s, early 70s, Planet of the Chickens?
Yeah, well, coincidentally, yeah, I never thought it would come true. And because I actually met this chicken, you know.
You did?
Yeah, well, my uncle is, he's still alive. This didn't happen too far in the past.
Well, what happened to the chicken? Is it still alive?
Oh, I think it's working at a nuclear power plant.
Doing what?
It knows before the sensitive equipment if something's going wrong with the nuclear reaction.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, if that chicken had been at 3 Mile Island,
it would have never happened. No, well, the Ruskies want this chicken. They want to breed one because, Chernobyl was a disaster. It's the equivalent of a canary in a coal mine, but this is the chicken in a nuclear power plant.
And also, I think the chicken helped in the production.
It started laying eggs that were fissionable.
You would smash 2 eggs together, right? And then you would get a third heavier egg, but you'd also get a release of energy.
Yeah, well, uranium, it's because its molecules are so densely packed that you can get a fission reaction. Well, this chicken started laying eggs that had an equivalent amount of molecular density. Due to a lack of funding, chicken from another planet. Well, now,
This is
stop.
lies.
Don't waste
Chicken from
time
another
guessing
planet
if a
continues.
chicken that can
I should have
run
edited that
physical
bit
legs will blow
out. It's
up.
not
When
true.
part 2 is
Chicken
released,
from another
listen
planet
to it.
continues now.
concluded our broadcast
Oh,
schedule
and no,
for
no.
today. Good night.
We have not concluded our broadcast schedule today. Please accept our apologies. The Jack and Mark Show will now continue. Jack, take it away.
Jack and Mark Show presents Tall Tales from the Masterpiece Library. Due to a complete lack of funding, today's episode will be part 2 and 3, combined to create only one part called the final episode of Chicken from Another Planet.
Well, the military got a hold of it too.
They did. They tried to get a hold of it, but escaped. It didn't want to stay in a military institution. Boy, a lot of heads rolled for that when it escaped that high security prison.
I think in addition to being a feminist, it was a fairly progressive chicken.
Oh, yes.
So it didn't want its talents to be used to kill other people.
That's right. It had ethics.
It did.
Oh, that was the great chicken escape. It's known in the military that General, his head rolled. He also had low self-esteem, and he joined that group as well.
Yeah, so there were 5 of them. There was the general, the scientist, the thief,
The dog and the rooster.
They all had low self-esteem. I mean, that group still goes on today.
Oh, I know. It just keeps growing. And this chicken, it's lived for 20 years. It doesn't have a normal lifespan. I'm telling you, this chicken is an alien.
Oh, yeah. There's no question about it. There's no chicken that can produce 6 eggs a minute and have all these secret talents. I mean, maybe it's really something in a chicken suit.
It's the chicken from another planet. It did appear at my uncle's farm. He was out there one day and he saw this. He thought it was a meteorite, and it crashed out into the forest. And he just thought it was a meteorite. But the next day, it was this chicken.
Right, and it was huge, right?
Well, it was the size of a bulldog.
How big is a chicken-sized bulldog?
Well, the bulldog would have to be the size of the chicken in order for the chicken to be the size of a bulldog. But its mass, it weighs much more than a normal chicken.
Oh, yeah, its mass was heavier than the density of gold. It once lobbied for a place on the periodic table.
Yeah, it did. It was quite remarkable that it wants a picture of itself on the periodic table. I thought it was a bit forward, but I mean, if you're a chicken from another planet, maybe wants to be remembered.
Well, he wants to leave a legacy.
Actually, is a different element. That's why it can do the things that it does.
I think it's element number 119 on the periodic table. It's in the right-hand column.
It is there already?
Yeah, well, that's what he's petitioning for. He wants to be considered a noble gas.
Well, that's another thing. Everyone thought it was a she, but it's actually they can't even determine its sexuality. I think maybe it's a robot. They wanted to do an X-ray of it.
But she wouldn't have any of that.
They destroyed the X-ray machine.
But what happened to the feelings of the X-ray machine?
Well, it didn't have feelings, but the operator did.
And what happened to him?
Well, he had low self-esteem, of course.
So what did he do?
He had to go join the session.
Right, so then there was 4.
They had to move from the adjoining farm and the neighbor's farm and go hire a proper room.
Well, I heard that one day the chicken heard about this session and kind of muscled in and started conducting the therapy sessions. And everybody got high self-esteem after that. Is that true?
They did, yeah. They had self-esteem while the chicken was there.
What happened to the previous moderator of the therapy group?
He was replaced by chicken, so he had low self-esteem. But he couldn't go to the session because the chicken didn't want him interfering. But then later he returned, and then they started requesting occasional visits from the chicken. You know that machine that Stephen Hawkins was using? The chicken started using it, and he was able to speak with people.
And what did it say?
Get me some more chicken feed was one of the first things it said, but it was just kind of joking, because it actually, it liked a plowman's lunch.
Right, which is...
Well, it's cold cuts and mashed potatoes, I think, and then bread. Yeah, it was a very conventional diet. And of course, it had nothing to do with birdseed.
No, because this was no bird.
Oh, yeah, I know. It looked like a bird. But that's the thing. If it's an alien, just because we think it looks like a chicken doesn't mean it has anything to do with a chicken.
No, I mean, aliens on their chicken farms, they might have things that look like people.
Of course. And also, the worst thing of it, well, the thing that was kind of disconcerting is I think chicken was a bit of a snob. To us, to human beings. It considered itself superior.
Right. Well, with all these low self-esteems going around, I'm not surprised that it would think about that. Didn't the chicken rescue a bunch of people?
Oh, yeah, that was when that ferry was going across to Newfoundland. It's a 14-hour trip. It started taking on water, and they didn't know what to do. It was a big storm. And
someone had a big chicken sign that they shot in the sky, right, like Batman, a big chicken symbol.
I know, this chicken has become so famous. It's remarkable. And the chicken leapt into some high-powered motorboat and drove out there and started saving people.
And what happened to the normal superheroes like Superman and all that?
They are fictional, of course. So the actors, even the actors started suffering from low self-esteem.
Like Michael Keaton.
Yeah. And of course, people don't believe that this is true. And then they come on some sort of holy mission to meet this chicken and are determined to prove it wrong. But they always leave dejected.
He is the true Messiah.
Advocates kindness to chickens. I mean, I tell you, when he saw a chicken farm, he did go a bit berserk because they look like him.
That's his one weakness, I think.
The thing is, too, that when he wants to hide, he just goes flying into one of these big chicken places, and you don't know which one is him.
Yeah, but he's bigger than the other chickens. That's the thing.
He just contracts his feathers, I think, and he's able to make himself look smaller.
That's how he learned how to engage in nuclear fusion.
That's how he did it?
Yeah, well, because he contracted so he got enough density, like critical density.
Oh, to produce the egg that has the critical density.
I mean, the interesting thing is, the eggs, when he lays the eggs are bigger than him because they expand. They're so dense that they expand once they hit contact with the air. And that's what enables them to generate nuclear power.
Of course, the Ruskies did attempt a big kidnap, remember?
Didn't they, launch a rocket?
Well, they did send a team of commandos right after the rocket had exploded on the farm.
Well, because the chicken was able to peck it out of the air. That was their problem.
Yeah, they didn't figure on that. But then the elite kidnap team, like a Navy SEALs or sort of Ruskies version, came in and they kidnapped him. And it was amazing that he got kidnapped. But of course, later on, you realize he let himself be kidnapped.
Right.
They thought, this is it, we've got him. And then they got him on the submarine, and they're going through the ocean, and the chicken takes over the whole submarine.
And he turned it back around.
Yeah, he turned it back around, and he drove the whole thing to Club Med down in the Bahamas somewhere.
And how are those commandos feeling these days?
They couldn't even return to Russia. They felt so humiliated. They had to start their whole own counseling session.
Oh, they didn't join the other one?
Well, they did for a while, but no one really wanted them there because...
They were eating all the donuts at the end of the meeting, I heard.
Yeah, they would eat a lot of donuts. They didn't have a lot of donuts in Russia, they said. And they just had to go back to Russia because Ruskies always have to go back to Russia, it seems.
Well, the good thing that came of that is that began the kind of whole détente between Canada, United States, and Russia. And that was facilitated by this chicken.
They had to have peace talks because everyone was terrified of the chicken. What came down to it was basically like, what is this chicken going to do next? No one had control of him. This chicken was doing what he wanted to do.
In many ways, he was good for us because he eliminated social problems of the world.
And now they have a big statue of this chicken.
How big is the statue? Is it the size of a bulldog statue?
Well, they made it even bigger. They made it about the size of a 5-story building. They erected it down at Club Med in the Bahamas, where that Russian sub still languishes.
I heard one of the problems with that statue is a lot of pigeons are landing on it and shitting on it.
Oh, yeah, well, suddenly one day the pigeons were just gone. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, that was the great
pigeon disappearance. And then suddenly there was a chef cooking up all these little pigeon delicacies.
Well, of course, after the chicken got control of the world, there was no more chickens for dinner.
It's kind of funny because he wasn't really a chicken, but he looked like chickens. So I guess, he kind of empathized then.
I mean, he came up with his whole set of psychological theories, right? And he began to understand the kind of neurological underpinnings of empathy.
Well, his favorite hobby was leading huge rebellions of chickens in these chicken laying farms. He would sneak in there, and within 24 hours, they would have pecked all their way out of the cages. They all escaped across the countryside at large.
First one was the Great Humber River Chicken Rebellion.
Yeah, the Great Humber Chicken Rebellion.
But he didn't confine himself to just fowl. He was very helpful to waterfowl as well, wasn't he?
He had a whole platoon of chickens attack some duck hunters who were hiding in the marshes.
In the duck blinds. He got rid of duck blinds.
Yeah, he did. Even the retrievers. They were completely confused with chickens all over the place.
They thought, I'm not very good at my job anymore. I can't find all these ducks that my owner has shot, right? So they suffered from low self-esteem.
Yeah, then they had to get yet another. So at this point, I think it was occupying 4 floors. And even the Ruskies used to come back occasionally. Yeah, I thought they would leave. They said they were going to leave. Actually, they said they were going to leave, and they never did, because they didn't feel like they could even operate in the world anymore.
Well, no, I mean, with those peace talks, right, they were a fairly militaristic society, and those peace talks just gave all their military generals just complete loads. So the thing about the chicken was, he didn't realize that he was creating this low self-esteem.
No.
He thought he was solving all the world's problems, but the whole world, while many social problems had been solved, everybody was suffering from low self-esteem, except for the chicken.
Yeah, well, it's ironic.
So he wanted to work on that.
He started trying to create increasing your self-esteem courses. He had all these
books.
Oh, yeah, he pecked out a book.
Well, he used Morse code, I think. Didn't he use Morse code for his books?
He thought that it was best to challenge his readers. And once it was deciphered, it was basically a bunch of little fables about chickens, finding themselves in the world.
Well, it was all Aesop's fables with all the characters replaced by chickens.
That's right. It was like Aesop fables. Funny enough, this chicken, he claimed to have written Aesop fables. He said that due to time bending and stuff, he is actually back in the ancient Greek times.
One good thing about chicken pecking is you can write in Braille very easily. And he claimed to have written all of those plays by Shakespeare with his time-bending thing.
Oh, yeah, he did make that claim. But, I got to wonder, maybe he's just showing off. I mean, we have no way to prove his claims. And I mean, no one knows who Shakespeare was. And they always say, oh, yeah, a bunch of monkeys could have done it, or it was several individuals, in fact. And then he just, of course, jumps in on any sort of information that isn't solid ironclad and just said, well, actually, it was me.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who tries to stand up to him, you're pecked to death.
You just peck at your self-esteem. He said it through the Stephen Hawking's talking machine, remember?
Right. One weakness was that he had a hard time not enunciating, but expressing his views.
Yeah, and he had a hard time expressing vowels.
Well, chickens are renowned for an inability to express vowels.
Well, on the planet he came from, of course, he was able to converse quite readily, but...
Well, they didn't have vowels in that planet, I heard.
Yeah, they didn't have vowels, so he didn't have vocal cords.
No, he didn't have so vowels, it'd be pointless to have vowels if you don't have vocal cords.
And I think he could just communicate, sending out signals like Wi-Fi.
Well, brain signals.
Yeah, but he got lonely. He got lonely because he's lonely at the top, and he was smarter than everybody and everything on this planet.
Well, when he became so distraught, he started to become despondent. And his self-esteem started to lower.
And then he went out in the forest and he started rebuilding his ship.
His spaceship. He just got into the ship and left.
It looked like a giant chicken.
Right. It was just a giant chicken.
Yeah, it just looked like a bigger version of him.
Yeah, it wasn't a giant chicken, of course. No, I know.
And it had a nuclear fusion reactor, too.
It turned out all that egg laying he'd done, it was all to give him enough supply of energy so that he could leave planet Earth and the solar system.
Yes, and go home.
I mean, he came down here as an exploratory mission just to see what the heck was going on. But he didn't realize his superpowers would lead him to become ruler of the world.
Yeah, and he had better things to do. I think he had a special chicken back home on the planet where he came from.
Oh,
Yeah, and she
isn't that
was missing
nice?
him.
Always
I love
nice
a love
to know
story.
that. In the end, it was just a big love story.
Anyways, listen, you want a bite of my chicken sandwich?
Oh, that's
Let's go
disgusting.
to Kentucky Fried Chicken. Let's go there.
We have concluded our broadcast
Disgusting.
schedule for today.
No.
Good night.
We have not concluded our broadcasting schedule for today. It's a lie. Although it is true that everybody has heard about the bird. Please check out the Jack and Mark Show on iTunes. Just Google it. And remember, kiddies, everything, even this postscript, is improvised. And now to close out the show with a couple of classic rock and roll tunes, here is Dire Straits from their debut album and the Sultans of Swing.
Shiver in the dark, it's raining in the park, but meantime sound of the river, you stop and you hold everything. A band is blowing Dixie, double fall time. You feel alright when you hear the music ring. Well, now you step inside, but you don't see too many faces. Coming in out of the rain, they hear the jazz go down. Competition in other places, but the horns, they blowing that sound. Way on down south, way on down south, London town. Check out Guitar George, he knows all the chords. But it's strictly rhythm, he doesn't wanna make it cry or sing. If then an old guitar is all he can afford, when he gets up under the lights to play his thing. And Harry doesn't mind if he doesn't make the scene. He's got a daytime job, he's doing alright. He can play the honky-tonk like anything, saving it up Friday night with the Sultans, with the Sultans of Swing. And a crowd of young boys, they're fooling around in the corner, drunk and dressed in their best brown baggies in their platform soles. They don't give a damn about any trumpet playing band. It ain't what they call rock and roll. And the Sultans, yeah, the Sultans, they play Creole. Creole. one more thing. We are the Sultans. We are the Sultans.